You know, it can actually be pretty easy to forget how big Happy Tree Friends was in the prime of its run. Not only did the show get a TV season, but it also got tons of merch. A lot of this merch is pretty standard stuff, like shirts, mugs, that sort of stuff. But, like a lot of shows that get popular, Happy Tree Friends got plushes, and there are way more than you may think. When I mentioned the idea of this video in my community poll recently, I didn't expect it to win even in the slightest, as I had just put it in as a throwaway item. However, people seemed really interested in the idea as it won the poll by a landslide. So, I am proud to present the history of every single Happy Tree Friends plush. Starting off with the first plushes ever made, we have the 2003 Fun for All set. This set contains two plushes, Cuddles and Flippy. It's also interesting to note that other characters are printed on the box these two plushes came in. While all but one of these characters would get plushes in later sets, Fun for All never made plushes of any of these other characters. But anyways, let's focus on the characters that actually did get plushes made. The two Fun for All plushes are both insanely high quality. For one, they're very detailed and well made, with nice stitched eyes. They're fully posable, so you can have them sit down or stand up depending on how you want to display them. And overall, they're just very accurate and charming portrayals of these characters. But that's not all. These also have their own unique gimmicks, and the first plush I'm going to be looking at, Cuddles, is a great example. You can pull out some of his guts, take off his hand to reveal a bone, and you can even take off his entire head and see bits of his spine. These really cool features, combined with the fact that this is just a really good plush of Cuddles regardless, makes this one of the most popular plushes by far, and the creators definitely agree. This plush actually inspired the official Cuddles mascot costume that was used at events like Comic-Con and the Streamy Awards. You can tell due to his general design, as well as the fact he can remove his hand and guts, just like the plush. So in the end, there is a reason this plush has a very long legacy and is one of the most sought-after collector's items. This guy goes for around $250, and if you have the box that he came in, you can double that price. However, if you want something a little bit cheaper from the Fun for All line, you can get the other plush from the set, Flippy. On top of just being a great plush design overall, Fun for All decided to give Flippy his own gimmicks separate from Cuddles so that it would fit his character more, and these gimmicks are fantastic. For one, his dog tags are actual real dog tags. They could have just used felt or something to make this work, but no, they decided they wanted to go as authentic as possible, and thus these are real unique dog tags specifically made for this plush. He also comes with this little plush grenade attached to his hand via Velcro. However, as is to be expected with little parts like this, they are often lost, and because of this, the price for this guy can vary greatly depending on whether he has the grenade or not. However, the main thing that makes this plush unique is its third gimmick, and this one is big. This plush can spin his head all the way around, revealing a Flick-Pea face on the other side. And while yes, this face is a bit goofy, I think it's goofy in a sort of charming way. So even if it's not entirely accurate to what Flick-Pea looks like in the show, it's still cool that they were able to represent him in plush form. As I said previously, this plush is actually a pretty decent bit cheaper than the Cuddles plush. Where Cuddles was around $250 loose, you can get a Flippy with all his accessories for around $120 or so. And if you don't care about his grenade, you can get him for around $80. Of course, if he's in the box, he's definitely going to be a lot more expensive, but you can definitely get your hands on this guy for a decent price if you know where to look and you're patient. So, that's the Fun for All set. Seems America's off to a pretty good start with their plushes. Let's see if they can keep up that track record with the next set, which is the biggest one ever released, the 2006 Hunter Leisure set. While Fun for All only made 2 plushes, Hunter Leisure made a whopping 8. Many of these characters featured in this set never got plushes past this, so this will be the only appearance of some of these characters. Once again, I'm going to start with Cuddles, as I think he's pretty good at showcasing what this set is like. Compared to the Fun for All release, Hunter Leisure Cuddles obviously doesn't really stack up. His eyes are printed instead of stitched, his face is barely a smile, his eyes are weirdly small, and he doesn't have any of the gimmicks that the Fun for All one had. And in general, he's just kind of a worse version of the Fun for All one in every single way. He's not a terrible plush though, and it makes a lot more sense when you realize what these plushes were made for. These plushes were not only released on the Happy Tree Friends online store, but they were also released in arcade claw machines and other various carnival games. For this reason, there are bigger versions of each plush in this set. Or at least I'm pretty sure every character got one. There's only pictures of a couple, so I'm not entirely sure if every character got a big variation, but I do know that at least a couple of them did. And back on the topic of Cuddles, here's what his big version looks like, and yeah, he definitely does look like that. As is common with carnival prizes like this, the big ones are severely understuffed and often look very strange, and you'll see more of it as we go on. So that's the Cuddles plush. Overall, he's not a bad plush, he's just a bit weird looking. And while he's fresh on our mind, let's talk about the other character who also got a Fun For All plush, Flippy. Now, Hunter Leisure Flippy is very clearly not as good as his Fun For All version. It's immediately apparent. Fun For All Flippies generally look about the same, but Hunter Leisure Flippies just look so weird. Some of them look completely normal, and other ones are doing this, so I don't really know what to think of this guy. He still has his dog tags, and his grenade is still there, although the grenade is way less detailed than it is on the Fun For All plush. And also, this is just a basic Flippy plush. Despite being in the promo material for it, Flippy is not in this set at all. Even though it's way rarer, the big Hunter Leisure Flippy is so much better than the little one. He's much more clearly smiling, and if you can get your hands on this one, this is the better Hunter Leisure Flippy to go for. But overall, this is definitely a plush, and it is a Flippy. So let's move on to the next plush. Next up, we have our first Hunter Leisure exclusive character that never got a plush in any other set, Toothy. And yeah, this is not a very good plush. The other Hunter Leisure plushes can look a bit awkward at times, but they generally do stick to the character's design. Toothy is the exception. This might just be a me thing, but I think it's a bit of a problem when the character named Toothy isn't Toothy. His teeth are the same as every other character's. On top of that, he doesn't even have his freckles, which I thought was just because of his small size, but no, the big one doesn't have freckles either. So yeah, this plush isn't very accurate. Combined with his small size, rarity, and his decently high price, I'd honestly just recommend getting a bootleg, and generally I don't want to advise people to buy bootlegs, but the bootleg is more accurate to the character. So yeah, the bootleggers won on this one, and trust me, we'll get to those bootlegs later. But in the end, this plush is better than the prototype. Next up, we have the other beaver in the set, Handy, and luckily, his plush is actually pretty good, especially compared to Toothy. The first thing you might notice about this plush is his face. It's his trademark scowl that he's been doing in almost every episode he's appeared in ever since his debut in the episode Housewarming. I find it hilarious that Handy's only plush he ever got is him being frustrated. It's really good. Luckily, Hunter Leisure actually did do a pretty good job representing the rest of his character. The hard hat and his arm nubs look just as you'd expect, and he even has his tool belt complete with little plush tools. They really didn't have to go that far for a Handy plush. They could have simply made the tools felt, but they decided to make them actual plush. And it made me wonder how Toothy got past quality control if you can clearly make really good plushes like this one. I will never understand Hunter Leisure, though what I know for sure is that this is a very good plush of Handy. Moving on to the final Hunter Leisure exclusive plush, we have Lifty. And before you ask, no, Shifty did not ever get a plush. Why they only did Lifty when Shifty is generally more popular, I have no idea. But hey, this plush is pretty decent for what it is. Everything in Lifty's design is pretty well adapted here. He has his little hair tufts, his unique ears, his bushy tail, and he has a grin which he is usually seen with. Now from the front, this looks pretty good, but from the side, yeah, this looks a bit odd. It looks like he's sad instead of mischievous like he's supposed to be. Like most of these Hunter Leisure plushes, he's fun, he's charming, and he works at what he's trying to do, but overall he's just kinda weird looking. And keeping up with the trend of just looking a little bit off, we have our first female character, Giggles. Unlike the other plushes, which would have either printed flat mouths or open smiles, Giggles' mouth is a closed, stitched smile. And because of the aforementioned lack of quality control these Hunter Leisure plushes had, this smile can look a bit odd, again in a way that could be kind of charming. There isn't too much to say about Giggles besides that smile, but oh boy, that smile. Again, sometimes it looks okay, and sometimes it looks very odd. Another thing is that her eyes can be very oddly placed sometimes, and this is something I really didn't notice with a lot of the other plushes. It seems that the placement and the sizing of the eyes isn't consistent between these plushes, and I'm not entirely sure why. They're supposed to be based off of the same base model, so why are they different? I actually do have a picture of this one's big variant, and yeah, again, her smile is very weird and shaky. I guess she's just kind of shy. And just so you know, these Hunter Leisure plushes are generally around $40 to $50 each. So it really is up to you whether this is charming enough to warrant spending your money. Just ask yourself, should I spend $50 on this? Or this? Next up is my favorite plush in the set, Nutty. And oh boy, I really like this plush. For some reason, Hunter Leisure's odd way of doing mouths just really works on Nutty. It makes him look just as crazy as he needs to be. And aside from that, he's just a very accurate portrayal of Nutty. And his face is just right. It's not too manic, but it's also not too bland. Unlike all the other Hunter Leisure plushes, which all had some sort of weird quirk to them, Nutty is just really well done overall. Unless the candy being flat is that much of a big deal to you, I can't really see many people disliking this plush. If you like Nutty, definitely keep your eye out for this plush, if you can find him. The next character is the final one in the set, and despite his prominence in the show, he really doesn't have a ton of plushes. I am of course talking about Lumpy. This plush is very stupid looking, but hey, it's Lumpy, that's his whole deal. Looking stupid just kinda comes with the territory when you're trying to adapt this guy into 3D. And this is why you never see him front-facing in the show very often. And when you do, he looks like this. So, yeah. I will admit his eyes can look a bit odd, and his teeth are just flat felt, but all things considered, I think this plush still really works. He's charming and accurate, what more could you want? And despite the other problems that the Hunter Leisure set has had in the past, this plush sticks the landing and makes a very charming Lumpy plush that, while stupid looking, really does fit his character. And it seems that the crew agrees, as evidenced by this picture of Warren Graff. This was for a Reddit AMA, and I just really wanted to show this picture, as not only is it funny, but it shows that the crew really did like these plushes. So that's the Hunter Leisure set. Even if it's a mixed bag of quality, it did give us a few really good plushes. Whether they're worth $40 to $50 each, that's up to you. And with that set complete, we have now talked about every single plush released in America. Yeah, they only did 2 sets. I don't know why they only did 2 sets, but what are you gonna do? So now we move to a country that is known for loving Happy Tree Friends and getting way more merch than America ever got. This country absolutely adores the series and gave it plushes unlike any other. I am of course talking about the lovely country of Germany. Germany just really likes Happy Tree Friends for some reason, so much that they got exclusive plush sets, starting with the very rare and very obscure POS line. No idea why they're called that, but hey, we'll roll with it. This set has 2 plushes, and yeah, they look a bit familiar, don't they? Yeah, so these are basically just the Fun For All plushes, but cheaper. As you can see, the eyes are now printed instead of stitched. There's not much to say about this set, other than the fact that Cuddle's guts are red instead of pink. I don't know why, but I guess they felt that was necessary. Maybe red is cheaper, I don't know. Aside from some very slight differences in size, they're basically just German Fun For All plushes. Except the Fun For All ones had more quality control than these, so you're better off just looking for one of those. And judging by the fact that the Fun For All plushes are generally cheaper than these very expensive plushes, and Fun For All plushes are not cheap to begin with, and mixing this in with the fact that the Fun For All plushes are just generally better in every way, makes these plushes very hard to justify buying unless you're a very devoted collector. With that out of the way, let's move on to the more interesting German set, the 2006 Play-by-Play set. Similar to Hunter Leisure, Play-by-Play focuses on arcade prizes, specifically in Europe, and in this case, Germany. And these aren't just some no-names, they've worked with some major brands like Mario and Pokemon. And taking a look at the work they did for those brands, we can see that... Yeah, some of their previous work isn't great, so let's see how they did with these plushes. Once again, we start with Cuddles, and that's just the Hunter Leisure one again. That's literally just the Hunter Leisure one again. Did Germany have a single original idea? Okay, this is why I called this the more interesting set. These are basically mixes between Hunter Leisure and Fun for All, and the results are interesting to say the least. As you can see here, Cuddles is basically just his Hunter Leisure design, except he can remove his hand and guts, just like the Fun for All one. However, he can't remove his head. I guess that was too expensive. And once again, I guess Germany really likes the guts being red, cause they're red again. Flippy is similar. He still has his grenade, although it is stitched to his hand now. He still has his dog tags, and he still has the Flickpea face on the back of his head. However, his head doesn't spin, so there's just a second face on the back of his head for no reason. And it looks kinda odd, especially with the printed eyes. Yeah, so just like the last set, these are both basically just Fun for All plushes, but worse. As I said, these are carnival prizes, and thus bigger versions were made. They're definitely a lot harder to find, but they generally do look better. However, there's two other characters in the set, and these are much more interesting. First is Nutty, and... uh-oh, this was not a good example for being interesting. Yeah, he's basically the same as Hunter Leisure, except the candy is now 3D instead of flat. But other than that, he is exactly the same as Hunter Leisure, so he's overall still pretty good because the Hunter Leisure one, as I said earlier, is a very good plush. Though good luck finding one of these. I couldn't find a single listing for this guy that is ever sold, and there's barely any pictures of him. Next we have Lumpy, and Lumpy is fascinating. At first glance, he's basically just the same as the Hunter Leisure one. The only real difference is the addition of nostrils, and the fact that he has bigger eyes. And this is why this plush is fascinating. For whatever reason, the play-by-play set decided to give Lumpy his own unique gimmick, just like the Fun for All set. Where Cuddles could take off his head, Lumpy can take out his eye. He doesn't have any features besides this, but hey, this is really cool. And it's this feature that's actually caused a little bit of speculation. Remember how the Fun for All box actually showed characters that they never made plushes for? Well, Lumpy was one of those characters. Who knows, maybe Play-by-Play decided to take a design that Fun for All never released. Though, this is just speculation, so it might not be true. It's just a little fun idea. So, that's the Play-by-Play set. In the end, this set is just kinda weird. Unless you're a very devoted collector or you actually live in Germany, there's no real reason to go after this set. If you want something higher quality for Cuddles or Flippy, get a Fun for All. If you want a cheaper version of the Nutty or the Lumpy, just get their Hunter Leisure plushes. But these plushes are definitely a cool piece of history. For example, I could understand if somebody really wanted the Lumpy. However, if you don't actually live in Germany, these can be a bit tough to track down. So you're most likely going to have to look on eBay Germany. However, most sellers in Germany only ship to other places in Germany. So it might be a bit tricky to get your hands on one of these if you really want them. I personally wouldn't bother. I'd just get a Hunter Leisure plush or save up and get a Fun for All. But hey, if you're a really big fan of these plushes, you can get your hands on them. It's just not going to be easy. So those are the two German sets. And with those sets complete, we can now talk about another country that loves Happy Tree Friends. It's time to talk about the Japanese sets, and there are a lot of them, so we're gonna go a little bit faster for these, especially when these plushes are generally very similar to one another. I don't think you need to hear my opinion on the 50th Cuddles plush, it's really not necessary. First, let's look at the 2009 set by CubeWorks. If you're unfamiliar, this is the company that made the Automaton, so we might be in good hands here. This set only has 3 characters, and those characters are Cuddles, as usual, Giggles getting her second plush, and a newcomer we haven't seen before, Petunia. And right off the bat, the quality of this set is obvious. Well made, very accurate, nice colors, high quality materials, and great attention to detail, like Cuddles' hair tuft or Petunia's flower. It's little details like this that really show that these plush makers knew what they were doing. The reason these plushes are so high quality is due to them being released at retail. For example, take a look at the eyes. Unlike a lot of the other plushes that we've talked about, they're stitched, just like the Fun for All ones. and the fact that you could just buy these meant that they had more money to make these great, and they did. The only minor issue I have is Giggle's closed smile. From a side view, it looks a little weird. But overall, this set is very high quality. And due to that quality, they are very expensive. Just one of these will set you back around $70 to $80. So it's up to you to decide whether this is enough quality to justify the value. They were also featured on some t-shirts. I didn't have anything else to say about them, but yeah, they were featured on t-shirts. Next up, we don't even have a set, just an individual plush. This is also the last plush to ever be released at retail. Furthermore, it's of a character we haven't seen yet. So, who do you think it is? Flaky, Mime, Russell, Disco... Wrong! Mr. Pickles. Yeah, I don't know why they made this. At retail, they released a Mr. Pickles keychain. And for whatever reason, it's crazy rare. I couldn't find a single listing for it anywhere. And I got maybe 3 pictures of it. So yeah, don't expect to get your hands on this one. I know, it's a real tragedy. From now on, every set that I'm gonna cover is an arcade prize. Luckily, Japan takes arcades very seriously. And interestingly, we're only going to be talking about one more company, SK Japan. They've released a lot of sets, and the names they're given are very weird, so I'm going to be giving my own names. Starting with the SK Japan base set. This might be my favorite set. I just love how they look. They're so cute, and yet they're so stupid at the same time. Look at Flippy. He looks like he's gonna ask me for a cigarette, and I don't smoke, but I would give him a cigarette. Despite being arcade prizes, these are still really well made. And while they did cut some corners, note that Petunia's flower is now flat, as well as Flippy's dog tags just being a little piece of felt, but these are still charming and high quality. They're also super fluffy too, so you really can't go wrong with this set. This is also the only plush of Cuddles to ever be given an actual voice. And of course I gotta play the clip. I kinda have to.
Oh, I too have a sip of my beverage.
Good stuff. Anyways, these are great. Though sadly, these almost never go for sale, and when they do, they are about the same price as the CubeWorks, around $60 to $70, though you're really gonna have to keep an eye out for them. As these were released in arcades, you couldn't really buy them, so they aren't in high supply. But overall, yeah, this is a great set. Next, we have the chain set, named as such due to every character in the set having a chain hanger. We have the same characters as the base set, however they are a bit differently designed. The most obvious change is the eyes now having black outlines. Cuddles and Petunia are basically the same, but Giggles is doing whatever this is, and Flippy... You know how I said base set Flippy needed a cigarette? I think he got his cigarette. What's the deal with this guy? What is this face? What is this face supposed to convey? No idea, but hey, this guy's funny. If you're wondering how I found all these plushes, I found them all on the Happy Tree Friends Japanese website, where there were images of every set. And this set is fascinating. It shows the renders that these plushes were based off of. And I've never seen these renders before, so I'm assuming these were made specifically for this set and nothing else. And unfortunately, because they haven't been released anywhere else to my knowledge, I wasn't able to get high quality pictures of them. So here's my artist rendition of what the Flippy one might have looked like. So that's the chain set. Aside from Giggles and Flippy, this is basically the same as the base set. I can't really give you a guide to their value because there's really no listings for these guys. Just like the base set, these are incredibly rare, and you're probably not going to be able to get one for under $60. But what if you want a set that's a little bit more interesting than that? Well, introducing the 2011 Toko Toko set. We only have 2 characters this time, Cuddles and Giggles, and you might immediately notice something very weird about them. They're really weirdly tall. Now this is very confusing at first, but then you realize this is the only set in this entire video that has batteries. Yes, you insert 3 AA batteries into their back, turn them on, press their hand, and they walk. Now of course you may be thinking, where's the video? I want to see them walk. Yeah, I want to see them walk too, but to my knowledge, there's no videos of these two online. However, many other franchises got Toko Toko plushes as well. So here's what another one of their plushes looks like when they walk. So just imagine this, but with cuddles or giggles over it. Considering that there's almost no documentation of these guys anywhere on the internet, yeah, you're not gonna get one of these. But hey, if you do get one, be sure to post a video of it. And now we move on to the keychains. There's 4 sets of keychains we're gonna talk about, but we can get 2 of them out of the way really quickly. The mini mascot and chain mascot sets. These are very boring, and I think you can see why. Now, we've talked about some releases having printed eyes, but these have fully printed faces. So yeah, there's really not too much to talk about with these sets. The chain mascot set is basically just the mini mascot set, except in the chain mascot set, every character has a second variant. You may have already noticed this, but it's very weird. In the image for the mini mascot set, if you look at Petunia's stomach, it's black instead of blue. I don't know how you messed this up in your advertisement, but hey, it is kind of funny. And so, in the end, these are super boring. Each of these keychains goes for around $30 each, which may seem like a lot, and that's because it is. With those ones out of the way, we now have the very creatively titled Mascot and Mascot 2 sets. That is actually what they're called, I am not joking. The Mascot 2 set is very standard. Simple, small, cute little plushes. Couldn't really give you a value on them, but they are cool. It's the first mascot set that's very interesting. As you can see, the Mascot 2 keychains have flat faces, so they generally look very similar, and very much like the website image. However, Mascot 1... how do I put this? Mascot 1 keychains kind of have an issue where they kind of have a tendency to... often, these ones will just... They won't stop screaming! Yeah, because these have open mouths, they are so wonky. I literally could not find a single one that looks normal. But hey, screaming is in the spirit of the show. And this is just too funny. So yeah, if you want actual quality, go for a Mascot 2. If you want ironic enjoyment, get a Mascot 1. So that's every Japanese plush. There's also various items that may or may not count as plushes depending on your definition. There's some other very flat keychains, these little bag things. There's these things you're supposed to put keys into, screen cleaners, stuff like that. I'm not going to cover these in depth though, as there's really not much information on these. Which brings us to the many unreleased plushes. First, we have one I actually showed off earlier. This unreleased Toothy. This was never actually meant to be released as it was rejected before it could get that far. And, yeah, I really don't think it's much of a loss that this never came out. However, I wouldn't say the same for these other sets. You may have noticed that there's lots of characters who haven't gotten plushes. Well, many of these characters were intended to have a plush, but they were cancelled. These characters are Sniffles, Disco Bear, Mime, Poppin' Cub, and Flaky, who despite being incredibly popular, never got a plush. It's a real shame that these never came out, as they look very accurate and well made. And with those all out of the way, we gotta talk about the bootlegs. A good thing to know, if a plush has a weird floral background like this, it's a bootleg. These things are like a disease. They clog up search results and make it very hard to find actual official plushes. And on top of that, they aren't even that good. Lammy looks malformed, Mr. Pickles looks like somebody just learned how to use the shape tool in MS Paint, Cuddles has been possessed by some sort of demon, Flaky looks like she's sucking her thumb and she just has these weird flat quills that look horrible. Nutty looks like he's about to commit treason, Lumpy makes me want to vomit, and Truffles is way too high quality to be associated with these bootlegs. Yeah, you probably shouldn't buy these. As I said before, Toothy is actually more accurate than his official plush. Truffles is actually very high quality, and from my own experiences, I can say that the Mime is actually quite good. But most of these are really not worth your money. Either save up for an official plush that has actual value, or, if you can, commission somebody to make one of a character that never got a plush. They can be expensive, but supporting an independent artist is always better than supporting a cheap knockoff. And there you have it. Every single Happy Tree Friends plush, or at least every single one I could find. I never initially intended for this video to take so long or be this long, but I wanted this video to be comprehensive, so I did what needed to be done. As for the next video, I'm most likely going to do a video about the Happy Tree Friends storyboards, as a lot of people seemed to be interested in that. Though just to be sure, I'm gonna run another community poll. So if you're watching this video when it's new, be sure to check my community tab so I can know what you want to see next. And until next time, see ya.